boys are back in town. Danny, Richard, good evening, brothers. How you doing, lads?
What the hell is going on behind me? You must have done that.
Look at that.
What's going on there, Danny?
You've done that. I've been set up here, and
that was that curry he had just before he came on the show.
That was it, yeah. Good evening to you all. Lovely to see everyone. Hope you're all well. Richard, how you been, mate?
I'm doing all right, mate. I'm doing all right. Yeah.
Everyone was asking where you was the other day. I had to tell them that you was out whining and dining.
Mate, I was romancing my wife, so it's got to be done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, Rich. Absolutely.
Yeah, Danny's just been telling us about his whining and dining escapades, but we won't go into that. Danny, how you doing, mate?
I'm very good, mate. I'm away again at the moment. I'm in Marbella at the moment. I met up with a mutual friend of ours today, Spencer.
And was he all right?
He was all right, mate. He was very good. Top
was
form.
He on form? Yeah, good
he
stuff.
Was indeed.
Danny, you do more travelling than a traveller.
I'll tell you what, mate, I am having a disaster at the moment. At least the internet seems to be all right tonight, thank God.
Oh, don't speak too soon. Let's
see how we go.
I'll tell you what, we'll get straight into it. So good evening, everyone. Let's have a look. There's just under 1,000 people already watching. Thank you very much for that tonight. Lovely to see you all. Paul, thank you very much for coming a member. I really appreciate that, mate. Let's get straight into it, gentlemen. So, the Notting Hill Carnival. I will start and then I'll bring you in. I did write something out, but I'm not going to read it. But look, I tell you what, culture. I don't know about how you lads feel, but I haven't got a problem with anyone celebrating their culture. I think it's everyone's right to do that. But what I want to know is, why is everyone else's culture perfectly okay to celebrate? It's reported in the Guardian, for an example, which I must recommend because it is very soft, strong, and highly absorbent. The Guardian describes it as a beautiful weekend of love.
Okay.
And we got Sky News gaslighting us. We got the BBC gaslighting us. We got all sorts of nonsense. And when it comes to celebrating our culture, it all goes wrong. Where all of a sudden we're the demons. Richard, why is this happening?
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking about what the Guardian said this weekend of love. Someone just dropped a video in a group I'm in, and the Guardian must have missed this video because it all kicks off, and a guy that's been restrained by two bouncers suddenly gets bottled by someone that's just standing to his right hand side. So maybe he's in their culture. That's how you show love. I don't know, Paul, but I mean, I think the truth of the matter is, it's all right to be anything except British. I think that's the truth because let's get it right. It's not about, we've always said this, it's genuinely not about skin color. It's about being British. And if you can, celebrate any other culture apart from British culture, you're absolutely fine. You do something like we did on the 27th of July, and despite great provocation, it remained peaceful. I think there was 1 or 2 arrests or something silly like that with 100,000 people there. But still and all, we're classed as a far right demonstration, and that there's violence and there's this, that, and the other. Whereas people getting bottled, stabbed, assaulted, policemen been spat on, goodness knows what else. Well, that's just part of culture. You know what I mean?
Quite a few of the police got injured, Rich, as well. So
they did, yeah. There was policemen injured, and there wasn't one officer injured as far as I know on the 27th. And actually. For that matter, I don't think there was any officers injured when there was that fracas in Downing Street, which a lot of people have been very, very harshly treated over. I'm not going to say any more about that because I'm not talking about that tonight. But yeah.
Well, we had this. This was tweeted earlier on by the Metropolitan Police Federation. 15 Met police officers assaulted at the Notting Hill Carnival yesterday. Punched, headbutted, spat at. Sadly predictable. We wish all injured colleagues well and continue to support all officers working at the event. I mean, look,
Paul, that sounds like it was just yesterday. I mean, it's a weekend event, isn't it? Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, isn't it?
I think it's Sunday and Mondays. 2 days, I think.
Of course, yeah.
Yes, bank holiday.
Bank holiday, yeah. I mean, look, we often dig the place out, but I mean, that's a godforsaken job, boys, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, especially look. I mean, the reality is, it's like anything. There are good coppers and there are bad coppers. I was watching that thing that Liam Tufts did with Pete Blexley, And I mean, if all the coppers that are out there were like him, we wouldn't have too much of a problem, would we? I mean, straight shooter, very fair, very straight down the line. And I think we've got to be fair in this, right? When I've been doing the police liaison for the the two last demos that we did, I've done a lot of it before that as well. A lot of them are okay. The lads that are actually at sort of at ground level. It's the higher up you go the chain that the problems seem to be getting worse and worse. But that said, there are still a lot of ones on the ground that aren't okay. So it's like it's really a mixed bag. So I think you can't. It's like anything. You can't condemn everybody that goes to the Notting Hill Carnival. I'm sure there's loads of people went there, had an absolute ball. Really had a good time. Didn't cause any trouble. Had whatever drinks they had and just had a party and had fun and went home. And of course, there's there's violent elements, and it's the same with every single group of people. But I think the problem I've got with it, Paul, is that we are demonized when we don't do anything wrong, and then when there's an event there is a lot of disorder because there's a lot of alcohol. There's probably, I would imagine, quite a lot of narcotics there as well, and so when there's that sort of stuff going on, there's gonna be a bit of bother. And that's what annoys me is that it's somebody said it today. It's not just two-tier policing, it's two-tier government, it's two-tier media. Everything's two-tier. And at the minute,
it's all against us.
It's all against. I know we're going to talk about Keir Starmer later, but it does not seem like he's letting up on his doubling down on us. And I think that's a very worrying thing that we're seeing at the minute.
Yeah, I think I mean, look, I echo that. I mean, boys, look, I'm not here tonight to dig out people that went to the Notting Hill Carnival. We have no gripe or problems with the black community, whoever went there, none whatsoever. We're not digging them out. I mean, look, crime's crime, and crime doesn't really see colour. A crime is a crime. But what we are calling out tonight is the double standards of the media, of the government, of the police. Although, to be fair, I'm not going to dig the police out over the weekend. They arrested a lot of people. But, the way the media are acting, I wrote this down, this is no way to unite a kingdom, nor does it promote community harmony or cohesion. Instead, it creates suspicion. I think it creates division and it creates animosity. And that's not the fault of any people. It's the fault of the mainstream media and those that are making the rules.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are making people angry and upset. And it's got to the point where I've got to tell you, mate, lads, right? A lot of people are telling me that they actually can't take anymore. They've got to get out. I mean, I've spoken to, where are we? In the last 2 or 3 days, I've had 3 of my, not friends, but 3 people that I know quite well have told me they are definitely leaving the UK. And that's on top of others that told me the week before. I'm seeing a mass exodus of the people that I know, a mass exodus. And they're genuinely feeling oppressed. That's the way they're feeling. They're, the hypocrisy by the media and the mayor, the head of the Met, the Prime Minister, is causing many decent, ordinary people to feel left in a state of anxiety and depression. Can you believe? Can you believe this?
I can, because I mean it's affected me. I mean, I'm not going to let them get me down because I'm not that sort of person. But I'm very on edge because obviously we've got quite a high profile, all of us, doing this, and it seems if you say one word out of line, you're getting your door smashed in. On our side of the argument, and me and my wife have been talking about this, saying this is just crazy what's going on. It's and actually to the stage where I'm going, where we'll just have times where we don't talk about it, we'll do something else, we'll not go down this road of even discussing it because it's so bad. And actually you're even scared of saying stuff even to each other, in public or whatever, in case some of these scumbags are listening to you and things are misconstrued. And I think we are turning into a police state. I think that's the reality. And it seems like the police and the security services and the the powers that be have got their sights on us alone. You know, it's not, they don't seem to have their sights on any other community as far as I can see. And they are splitting us up and dividing us. And I think, you know, what we've got to do, Paul, in this situation, and this is why I'm very, very careful not to actually criticize the carnival itself, right? We've got to double down on our efforts to have contacts with people in the Black community, in, you know, Sikh community, you know, Hindus, Jewish people. We've got to continue with that idea of pulling people together, because what the state wants I believe the state under Keir Starmer wants us, i.e. the white British working class, to be sectioned off so that we're seen as far right nut jobs. They don't want us mixing with Black people, with Asian people. They genuinely want some sort of apartheid where we're seen as the thugs, the bully boys, and all the rest of it, and the rest of the ethnic groups in the UK are turned against us, because that's what happened when those riots happened. Keir Starmer deliberately manufactured a crisis. Yes, there was an explosion of violence. Yes, it was wrong, but he made it a lot worse by the way he dealt with that. And that's continuing on with this media coverage and the way he didn't even mention any of the criminality that had happened at Notting Hill today. He went straight back to the riots. So what for me, Paul, I think it's really important we get the message out to any people that are watching, that we are not about this. We are not about dividing people on the grounds of their skin color. We want to come together.
Quite the opposite.
The opposite. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that. Listen, I'm not saying that out of fear. I'm saying that out of what's best for our country.
Yeah, absolutely. Richard, I don't think, boys, Danny, I don't think. I mean, all the people of colour that I know, they won't have none of this, because they just want to be as one.
Absolutely.
You know, I do not know anyone, whether they be Muslim, Christian, Jews, whatever. All the people that I know just want to get on.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they appreciate this division any more than we do.
It does seem to be very pocketed up, doesn't it? We seem to have various pockets that the white British person seems to fall into one of those pockets. So we're not all going down the same road. And that's where I think we're going wrong. I think we do need to all get in line, and we all need to go down the same road with the same goals of, like we said, peace and harmony, and just trying to be patriotic. What's wrong with being patriotic now?
Nothing whatsoever. I would like to see.
It seems like there is, Paul. It seems
as far as the government's concerned, maybe. I mean, if you're patriotic, you're a far right lunatic. But I think they might have misread the room with a lot of our different communities around the country, who I don't think will stand for this, and I don't think it's going to be long. I mean, I'm already seeing it in some circumstances where other communities do start to stand up, and we do see examples of that and say, hold on a minute, this is nonsense, you know? It's just plain wrong. I mean, his speech today, like you said, Richard, he you know, instead of talking about the carnival, I mean, who advises him? Because if you had any ounce of, what's the right word I'm looking for? If you had someone close to you advising you that was a bit switched on, a bit streetwise, they'd have said to him this morning, do you know what? You're probably best off mentioning the Notting Hill Carnival trouble today, just to show that you're on side, you know. And he didn't.
I think what we've got to understand is who Keir Starmer is, and I did a live stream with a guy, an American guy who studied communism. I'm very ignorant of communism, and I just know it's bad. Do you know what I mean? But he'd studied it, and he said Trotskyism, which is what Starmer has never denied being a Trotskyite. He was involved in a revolutionary publication when he was at university. He edited it. He has never denied being a Trotskyite, right? And according to this American guy who, you know, knows what he's talking about, he said Trotsky was worse than Stalin. Stalin sent Trotsky into exile because he was too violent and too dangerous and wanted to push the revolution too quickly. So Stalin went, no, you just go off into Siberia or wherever he was sent, and then of course he was assassinated. But so the Trotskyites are worse than a Stalinist. Now, if you think about that, what that means, and that's, you see, I don't think Starmer cares about PR. I don't think he cares about what we think at all. He obviously doesn't. And I think his agenda is to set us up so that in 5 years' time, if he gets his way, it will be almost impossible to vote him out because there will have been so much mass immigration that will have all got their tickets, whether they're illegal or legal. You know, what? Let's see, if we're doing 1 million a year, what we're going to have by, you know, we're going to have another 5 million people in the country in 5 years' time.
And Richard, so I understand it, they're going to put them in pockets. Like, you know, the speeches were like everybody's got to have their fair share of migration. They can manufacture that very, very well, can't they? Because anyone where they haven't got a seat, they can populate that area, and then when it comes to voting next time,
that's a very good point, that Danny.
When it comes to voting next time, they've now got a nice few votes there, haven't they? Because they've populated the area exactly that, and that's how I see that working.
Exactly.
You'll never, we may never get them out.
Well, I mean, that the reality is.
Oh, I think we will.
We've got to, we've got to, and that brings us back to what we've been working on for months. We've got to get a grip of this, what we're doing, right? I think we've got to get a grip of what we're doing, because I think there's a mega sense of urgency. I thought when we started doing what we're doing, I thought, okay, we can just slowly build this movement and build all the cultural side of things. I think we need to put it onto steroids and flipping high octane, flipping whatever narcotics we can get to make it fly. Do you know what I mean? And just make it go. Because I tell you what, we ain't got time to breathe. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm feeling a bit pressurized, because I'm going, my whole thing is now we have got to get rid of this political establishment, obviously by democratic means and legal means and peaceful means, right?
Yeah.
But we have got to get rid of them in 5 years' time, and we've got to have something that's ready to go. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say this, I know I'm going to annoy a lot of people. Reform is not ready to go. It is not ready to go. There's problems with reform, so there's a lot needs done on the right of British politics between the Conservative Party, Reform, and some of the smaller parties to have something that is a viable offering that will actually.
Do you think the Tories have any role to play in that at all, Richard?
I think right-wing Tories like Suella Braverman, maybe David Davis, I mean, Priti Patel, and that's about all I can think that would actually be worth dealing with in the Tory party. I think the Tory party are just insidious and vile.
They're eating themselves at the moment. I mean, do you know what, mate? I blame them for all of this. You know that.
I blame them, and I blame
them.
Yeah, I blame them, and I do blame Farage as well. I must admit, I'm not going to give him a free pass, because we gave him a free pass before the election. There's 5 years to work this out. Farage needs to put a lot of sackcloth and ashes on. And again, I'm not going to say all the problems I've got with Farage on this stream, because but there's problems there as far as I'm concerned.
Is there a chance for them to change a little bit to make it right, though? We've got time, haven't we, with reform?
Well, we haven't got a lot of time, Danny. We haven't got a lot of time. And
I think the thing that worries me with reform more than anything is the lack of structure. There's no structure there.
Yep, there's no structure. They've got a lot of goodwill. They've got a lot of people. I mean, when I say things about reform, you would think, it's like I'm on even on my own channel, it's like I'm on a Salem witch trial. It's just like, you're losing subs. It's a good job I'm not monetized. I'm losing subs. I'm going, I don't care. I'm not, basically, I don't get any money for this anyway. But I've got to tell the truth, Paul. I've got to say what I think. Do you know what I mean? And so I'm not totally discarding reform and say reform can't work. But I think the way it is at the minute, and yes, I know they're going to democratize and all the rest of it, but I have a big problem. There's
a lot of work to be done in there.
I'll tell you what my biggest problem is, Paul. It's the way Nigel filled his pants, filled his nappy, and threw Tommy under the bus when the riots were at the height. Sat behind his desk and literally threw Tommy under the bus. And he did that. I've got the video. I've posted the video on my channel. He did that. Everybody saw it because he was scared of him getting the blame, right? And it was wrong, because it wasn't Farage's fault. I said that. It wasn't Nigel's fault at all. Yeah. But it certainly wasn't Tommy's fault. Yeah. And that was Judas to me. And that's like, how skeptical I've been about Farage for a long time. But when he did that, I just thought, mate, come on, how low can you get?
That was wrong.
And let's get it right, Paul. Tommy's looking down the barrel of a flipping prison sentence here, right? He does not need somebody else thrown under. He's got enough people trying to get him killed. Let's just be straight up and down about it. If he goes into prison, his life's in danger. He doesn't need Farage making it even more in danger to save his own skin. I thought it was insidious, and there's other things as well there. But I mean, I'm probably never going to meet Farage, and I'm never going to be able to say this face to face to him. So, You know, I've just got to say what I feel about it. But I don't.
I think what you're saying, to be honest with you, Richard, look, you know, I think every word that you're saying, I think is fair enough. I still believe, I want to believe that there's still a future somewhere along the line for reform. Whether that proves to be right or not, I don't know. For me, the biggest concern is the organisation, the makeup. I mean, they couldn't even get posters out for the general election. I know they had no time, but look, there's a lot of work to be done. Let's move on a little bit to the media. Sky News, for an example. I now feel that anyone that works for them, anyone, it doesn't matter if you're a presenter on TV, doesn't matter if you're backroom staff. I think a few years back, if you said, I work for Sky TV, it was, quite impressive. I think if you work for Sky TV now, you're a joke. It's something to be ashamed of, not to be proud of. If you work for Sky TV now, you've been totally discredited, haven't you, really?
Oh, totally.
No more so than the BBC, surely.
Well, along with the BBC, but I mean, Sky News have come up on the outside, haven't they? You know, if this is a race to the ultimate wokeness and the ultimate gaslighting prize, Sky News have come up on the outside, and they're neck and neck with the BBC right now. And I've got to tell you, mate, if I worked for Sky, I would be utterly ashamed to admit it. Ashamed.
Yeah.
Because again, what they've done over this weekend is nothing short of taking the piss out of the public, and that's exactly what they've done. Let me just shout this out. James Bond, great shout. I had this written down tonight. Paul Durant, 78-year-old hunger striker from Blackpool, a national hero, granddad of the nation. Now, Paul Durant, he is, as you say, 78 years old, is in his 21st day of a hunger strike. He's a 78-year-old grandfather, and he's starving himself to death for the cause. I wish Blackpool was a little bit nearer, because I'd get up there and see Paul Durant. But what a hero, what a man. And Paul, if you get to hear about this, I'm sure that everyone sends their love and best wishes to you. Proud of you, mate. Well done. Because that is the ultimate demonstration. It's peaceful. He's not in anyone but himself. And boy, oh boy, if he dies, can you imagine?
Well, I mean, I don't think they'd care, Paul. This is the thing. I think we've got to realise what we're dealing with. I think we've got a psychopath as Prime Minister. I really do. I think there's something wrong with him. You know, he shows no empathy. He doesn't care about any of the concerns that people have got, and he's creating division. And I think he's deliberately doing it because he knows that we are the biggest threat to his future in politics. Because let's get it right: if the Conservative Party stand against him in 5 years' time, is anybody even going to bother to vote? Do you know what I mean? So he knows that we're his biggest threat, and obviously he includes Farage in that as well. Because if you look at what he said in his speech today, he was digging out populists and he was digging out, he called us snake oil. So in other words, he was saying if anyone's ever shared anything that's not true, you're a snake oil salesman. Well, that makes him a snake oil salesman, because he was saying that these rights.
Most of the stuff he said, he's done a U-turn on.
Exactly. So he's the biggest snake oil salesman there is. So he's going to have to put himself in prison, you know. But,
and he's forgotten the far right now. It's populist now.
Well, that's what I said. He's read the room. He's read the room. He's read the room, Paul. His advice. That's what his advisor said. Oh, don't call them far right. That's really upsetting them. Call them populists. But it just widens the range of his target. So now he can go after Boris and Nigel and Flippin and everybody else. You know, Suella, the whole lot. You know.
Yeah,
so I think
we'll all end up in jail.
We're all going to end up in the gulag. You know, we're all going to end up in the gulag.
Asterix, member for a month. Thank you, Paul. I noticed your website forum and all the messages have been removed. Understandable under the present circumstances. Will it open again? It's a great question. The reason that I took the forum down is because I don't go in there every day and look at the messages and check what's being said. and I didn't want anyone getting themselves into trouble by writing messages on the forum that they might fall foul of.
Yep.
So I've removed it for not, I mean, I don't care if it's there or not. It doesn't matter to me, but I know a lot of you guys liked it, but I removed it for your own safety. I'm very sorry about that, but you can blame the government for that. Skyhawk, thank you very much. When is it enough, Paul? I'm so sad with this all. And another one, thank you very much. Who is controlling Paul? Why so much hatred for his people of the UK? Do you know what, guys? When I watch him, he reminds me of, what was that film with Michael Douglas in? Fatal Attraction.
Yeah.
Where it starts off, the relationship starts off all right, and you think, oh, well, maybe he's going to, and then it gets more and more sinister. And do you know what? When I watch him now, he actually frightens me.
I wonder if he's going to boil a bunny.
A bunny boiler. But he does. He frightens me. And my wife, when he comes on the TV, my wife says, get him off. Get him off. He scares the living daylights out of me.
He'd make a great Bond villain, wouldn't he? He'd make a
wouldn't
really,
he
really
just?
good Bond villain. You know,
Rich, please admit it. You don't like him, do you?
you can just. I think he's great. Listen, do you know what? I'll be fair. At least you know where he stands. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Listen, he hates us, we hate him. I mean, you know, there we go. That's it. You know, it's the problem is.
And then Tommy's going to come in.
No! Don't even say it, Paul. Don't even say it. Nothing about a man with a golden gun. and 3 nipples.
Oh.
Keir Starmer's got 3 nipples.
Oh dear. The British Patriot.
If anybody's too young to know that, that's a Bond film from 1974 with Roger Moore and what was the guy that played Dracula? Come on, help me out here, guys.
Oh, Peter Cushing.
No.
Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee played Scaramanga, the man with 3 nipples.
That's it. It's like that, isn't it? It's like that. You got to hold it like that.
Yeah, exactly.
The British Patriot. Thank you so much. Starmer is a definition of an egotistical, power-tripping dictator. Fight. I mean, that's what he is. Scary. He is a Bond villain.
He is a Bond villain. He really is. He's just,
Hayley Hammond.
He's sitting in number 10, just stroking a white pussy as we speak.
You could have done that after I'd finished my water, mate. I nearly choked then.
Richard, have you forgot we're live?
No, I just don't care anymore, Paul. You know.
Hayley Hammond. Sorry. Always be a car. I can't take him anywhere, can I?
We did mean it a different way, Paul. We didn't mean it like that. You know what I mean?
I said to him before we were coming, I said, Richard, I'm trying to keep you out of trouble, so please behave yourself. Right, I'll try again. Hayley Hamilton, thank you very much, Hayley. Always be aware of your surroundings and don't go out alone after dark. Be prepared. I spoke about this the other night, that certainly a lot of the women that I know now, and I'm not being dramatic, I honestly mean this. A lot of the women are feeling very unnerved at the moment. But is it any wonder when you look at what's going on around the country, the crime and the horrendous amount of, I mean, it's like Bird Box almost. You know that film Bird Box where everyone's just gone completely crazy.
Yep.
Seems that way, Paul. Now it does.
Hop stuff. It does, Danny. It really does. Hop stuff. We may look back on today and wish we had strong armed that change while we can. I don't think so, unless I'm reading that wrong. You can't strong arm a change.
No, it's not. I mean, you know, and that's the sort of stuff. I mean, let's be honest. Even that sort of talk at the moment is dangerous because the reality is, you know, we have a laugh and a joke, but the truth of the matter is we've got to do this peacefully and democratically. And we've said it. We've said this until we're blue in the face, not because we're trying to cover our own arses, but because we believe in it. Because I've seen what happens when the lid comes off a violent confrontation. And do you know what? I'm thankful that nobody was killed in those riots, right? Because I was saying to myself, if a Muslim gets killed or the Muslims kill one of these white guys that's roaming about,
it will just get worse, won't it?
That was a Rubicon. That would have been a Rubicon. That would have been tit for tat.
Big disaster.
It would have been an absolute catastrophe. So in a way, we've actually really dodged a bullet. And again, I'm going to say this. This might sound weird, but I mean, I don't know whether you guys remember. Obviously, what happened in the 80s in England, but in Northern Ireland in the 80s, the rioting that went on was not professionally organized rioting. It was just some scallies smashing stuff up and burning stuff. Let's just be honest about it. It could have been a lot worse than it was. There was no organized stuff. There was no mass throwing of petrol bombs. There was no, it was not, it wasn't serious rioting. I'm sorry. It was widespread and it was dangerous, but it wasn't organized and it could have been a lot worse. So I think
would the right word be like flash? It was a flash problem.
Yeah, back in Northern Ireland, we would have called that minor aggro. Do you know what I mean? It would have been you'd have ran in with with batons and fired a few plastic bullets and it would all been over. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it was nothing. It was nothing really, really serious. It was bad, but it could have been a lot worse.
I think the thing is, do you know one thing that I will say? Look, I've got to be careful how I say this because people have jumped straight on me back, right? But I'm glad that he managed to bring those under control quickly. I'm really glad that they came under control quickly. What upset me was the draconian sentences for some of the people who basically just didn't deserve what they got.
Like we said the other day on the other stream, Paul, as I understand it, even till today, the people that was involved in the situation in Manchester Airport have still not been charged.
Exactly.
Couldn't be more blatant than that, could it?
That's mind-boggling. Thanks, Bob. By the way, please do not be intimidated by the loony left.
Never.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Can I just come back on something you said there, Paul? I think we underestimate, right? And I'm not talking about us having massive influence, but the combined effort of everybody on our side of the political spectrum to bring calm. Let's not underestimate that. Tommy made 6 appeals for calm. I think it was 6, right? Every day. Now,
every video Tommy done.
We all know how influential Tommy is with the working class Brit, right? We know how loved he is, right? He was continually saying, remain calm, stay calm. Paul, we said it. I did videos saying it. You did videos saying it. Right the way through the whole of that. I've never made as many videos. And again, I don't have a lot of influence. I'm not pretending I'm, I don't have 1 million followers on Twitter. But we all did our best to keep things calm, right? And
keep people away from going to them as well.
Well, I mean, I to be honest with you, I said to people, if you're going to go to protest, because I believe that you should have a right, because that's another trap. If we fall into the trap of saying, oh, just don't protest. No, go to protest, but for goodness sake, do not be stupid. Don't fight with the police. Don't get into a confrontation, and whatever you do, don't start throwing bricks and burning stuff. I mean, it's just stupid, right?
Yeah.
But it did get to a point in those protests, though, Rich, that people were getting tugged out of the crowd. That's
why I was saying don't go at that particular time. Yeah.
Yeah, but the reality is we've got to get to the stage where we say, well, do you know what? It's all right to peacefully protest. If they come and start, they can only do that for so long, right? They can't just pull people out the crowd forever for nothing, right? I know they have done it, and I know there's a lot of real repression going on at the minute, but they literally cannot do that. Policing is by consent. If they lose the consent of the people, it's a disaster, and they know that as well. So they can't just come and arbitrarily arrest. If we had another demo, next week, which we're not, but if we had one next week and 10,000 people turned up and it was peaceful, the police can't just steam in, especially if you've done it all right and got all the permissions and you're not breaking the conditions. If you do a peaceful demonstration right, you can still do peaceful demonstrations. And it's something that Peter Blexley said on Liam Tuff's video. And it was absolutely right. He said, what the headlines are trying to do is stop people actually exercising their democratic right to freedom of assembly. And we've got to realize that that's a really important thing. So, so anyway, I'm going off on a tangent there, but I think it's really important that people still realize that they can, even if Scaramanga's standing around the corner, they can still go and do a demo.
Oh dear, something just come into my mind then, but I dare not say it on the live stream.
Go on, Paul. You want
No. Nick Carr. Richard on the money re Farage. He panics under slight media pressure. He would completely fold under pressure from globalists, etc. if ever Prime Minister. Untrustworthy. Here is a pound of flesh for the poor cat at number 10. Thank you very much. Phillips.
That cat's gone white since Scaramanga came at the pet.
Yeah.
Certainly gross.
Philip, hi Paul, it makes me think if Nigel Farage is working with Labour, look back at Brexit, that done so much damage as well. I mean, look, I just think he panicked. That's my honest opinion, and I think he panicked, and I think everyone had their moment, but I think the bottom line is this: is it's okay to. I think it was okay to be worried. I think it was okay to be concerned. I think it was okay to draw his reins in, but you don't chuck people under a bus.
No. That's why.
I mean, everyone on social media has pulled their reins in, has slowed things down, has toned it down, have stood back and gone, whoa, hold on a minute, where do we stand? But you won't find any of us chucking our mates under a bus.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's the thing. Look, we'll leave it at that. Look, Jules Lloyd, thank you very much. Speaking of James Bond, would he be weaponised against us considering he works for the government? Could we expect a plot twist?
Quite possibly.
Oh, what have you started tonight with Pussy Galore? Dear God.
I didn't mention Pussy Galore, Paul.
Rowena Cramner, thank you. Can you not organise a meet with all the smaller right-minded parties? They must become a council. What about a petition to the King? If you help me, I can do it. Rowena, you know what? A petition to the King is something that a lot of people have spoke about, and it's something that I think a few of us have thought about. But if you listen to the King's words recently,
I know. I agree. Paul, I agree with you.
Maybe in the future, but it ain't happening yet.
Not with this King.
No, not with this King. I mean, if it was William, then I think it would be worth a go, because I think William's got a good art.
Yeah, I mean, King Charles have not got a good track record. Let's just get it right. I mean, Charles I, traitor king, Charles II, pervert king, and Charles III. Well, I don't know what we're going to say about Charles, but
Pussy King.
Yeah.
This is going downhill tonight, isn't it? And we got nearly 4,000 people watching.
You see, you shouldn't have brought me on, Paul. You knew I'd wreck it, mate.
Can you tell me in the chat, guys? Should we ban Richard from future live streams? UK medic, thank you. Is Keir Starling not breaching our human rights by removing freedom of speech and then alleged democracy? Look, I think there's a lot to play out here. There's a lot to play out. Because I tell you now, I think that I said it in a video that I released, was it yesterday? I think there's a lot to play out. And I think that down the line, there are going to be questions to be answered here. Because when we talk about hate speech and when we talk about anti-establishment rhetoric, that just about covers anything and everything that he doesn't like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is very, very worrying.
No, totally. I mean, to me, I mean, one of the problems that a lot of people have got, a lot of people have basically just pleaded guilty under duress by the sound of it, and again, they're now gone, but I think there's going to be a lot of these cases come before judges where lads have basically been, put away. Can you hear me, Paul?
Yeah.
No, I couldn't hear you. Where people have been put away, and they don't get found guilty when they go to the Crown Court or whatever.
I was going to say it's the ones that have pleaded not guilty that are probably going to end up exposing this.
I think so.
And let's be honest, they seem to be releasing a lot of real criminals.
Yeah,
real criminals.
Don't even go there.
to make
Don't
way
even
for
go
these
there.
people,
Don't
you know,
even
for
go there.
pointing a finger and shouting at a police officer, which isn't
Look,
right, don't get me wrong.
Dan, I'm a dad, I'm a granddad. All I want is for my family to be safe. All I want is for everyone's family to be safe. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what colour you are. I don't care what football team you follow. I just want everyone to be safe, right? And the way the country's going, that ain't going to happen, is it?
No.
Yeah, if you've got a problem or you want to protest your right to try and say, I want this country safe and do it peacefully, you're still branded far right. If you've got an opinion now, you're branded far right. Well, until a populist now, allegedly, but
Populist now, yeah.
until a couple of days ago, far right thug.
Yeah.
And
For having an opinion.
I think what he's going to do, Danny, I think he's going to come down. He's going to double down. I think he's going to try and take us all off social media. I really do. I think he's going to come after our channels. I think he's going to come after Twitter. I think there's probably a lot going on in the background. It's very interesting that guy from Telegram was arrested when he got to Paris. I mean, this isn't just the UK. I mean, you know, let's get it right. The WA, all of these politicians, you know, Kamala, Biden, Scaramanga, Trudeau, that little French dwarf, whatever his name is, and his transgender wife.
You're not allowed to say dwarf anymore.
No. Well, I just talked about his transgender wife as well, so that's going to get me into even more trouble. But you know, the whole lot of them, the whole lot of them, they're all playing the game, and they're all playing the Klaus Schwab. You know,
But there seems to be a bit of change now. There seems to be some banning of certain situations in other Western countries now. They seem to be clamping down on things a little. Whether that will happen in the UK or not, it's a different matter. But yeah.
Bob Hunter, Papillon, 1973. Steve McQueen was amazing in Papillon. My favourite film. I want to escape from Starmer's gulag. There is no way that I shall concede to tyranny. I'll tell you who Starmer is in that 1970 film.
Oh God,
1973 film Papillon. I'll tell you who he is. In that film, there's a prison guard, right, that has a flower in his mouth. Oh dear.
It's the night of the movies, isn't it, with Paul Thorpe? Yeah?
It is. I'll tell you, who needs any of that? Thank you, Bob. Really appreciate it.
We'll be playing Name That Tune in a minute.
Yeah.
Oh dear, we've got to bring a little bit. Come on, we've got to have a bit of a laugh, haven't we? Otherwise, we'll all end up, you know, I don't know. Do you want some more good news, boys? I mean, this will interest Danny.
Do you know?
Look at this. Look, Birmingham 0, Fulham 2.
Oh God.
8 minutes left.
Is that an English football team?
It is, Danny. It is, Danny. Yeah.
It's Birmingham, Alabama.
Independent puppy. Thank you, mate. We can't go back to the past. We have to try and adapt how life is now. That is true.
Yep.
And I think that's a great comment there. I like that. And I'll tell you why, because you're right. We have got to adapt to how life is now. And I don't think you'll find any nation in the world that has adapted, and more importantly, has willingly and kindly been prepared to adapt to the point where we have. But there is a straw that breaks the camel's back. And I think we've, in many ways, we've reached that. I mean, I haven't even started talking about Starmer's painful autumn budget that he's promising us.
That's scary, isn't it? That's scary.
I mean, when a prime minister says we are in for a painful autumn budget, I think you can fairly say we're in for a painful autumn budget.
It just depends on how he does it, Paul. I mean, you know,
well, look, they need money, Danny. They need money, and they need a lot of it.
Let's not forget, in 2013, was it the Keir Starmer pension thing that was put through Parliament, that he doesn't pay tax on his pensions? Well, how's that fair?
It's incredible.
And it's genuine. I've looked.
Yeah,
it's genuine.
Yeah.
Look, they need money. They're going on about needing money, right?
Keir
And
Starmer QC pension act, I think it's called.
I've read it, Dan. You're
Check it
absolutely
out.
right. Yeah.
Check it out.
And the reason being that he has so much. There's so much in his pension that they have to have a special law for him, so he doesn't have to pay tax on it. So these people are not men of the people. They're
How can you be a man of the people when you got 8 million quid stuck in the bank? Right.
I thought it was a lot more than that. So
and not only that, but you've lived in that Westminster bubble all your life. What do you know about ordinary people? There are people out there with a lot of money that can still be a man of the people because that's the way they were brought up. That's where they came from. But they're telling us right now that we can expect a painful budget, that they need a lot of money. But Talk Radio reported earlier that they're about to give an amnesty to 44,000 illegals who are supposed to be removed from the UK. And according to Talk Radio, I'm quoting them, this amnesty is going to cost the taxpayer £18 billion.
in benefits.
Yep. 18 billion.
18 billion. Yep. 18
and
billion.
they're going to come after us in October. Anyone that's earning enough to feed themselves and maybe, just maybe, go out on a Friday night and have a pint and a curry, right? You're going to
forget that, really, Paul. I mean, at the end of the day, she quoted the other day that there was a 22 million black hole from the Tory party. They like to
billion,
the Tories,
22 billion.
22
billion.
Sorry, but I meant billion. Sorry.
Yeah.
But there's 18 billion of it gone straight away if it was reversed. So now we're 4 billion. So the rest of the British public can't, don't have to be kicked in the you-know-whats to sort of cover it.
You got to give it to the geezer, haven't you? Let's be fair. He's been in the job for 5 minutes, and if he'd have shot Bambi, he wouldn't be any less popular, would he? He wouldn't, would he? Let's be honest.
There's another film.
Yeah.
Another film, yeah.
We're quoting another film, Bambi.
Thank you, Si. Thank you. I'm going to, I'll tell you what, let's talk about films. Richard, what's your favourite film of all time?
Right. Oh, that's a hard one, Paul. Love Goodfellas, and I love Platoon. Yeah. They're the two. They'd be two. And The Outlaw Josie Wales. That's a brilliant film as well. So there's three. There's three great films.
Danny?
By far, without any question at all, The Godfather, the original one.
Right. Okay. Any close seconds?
The Godfather 2. Believe it or not, yeah.
There's so many good ones in there, to be fair. David Crosby, 9 Hill Carnival, many stabbings and drugs, but it was a lovely day. St George's Day march, no stabbings, no drugs. It was a terrible, horrid day. BBC News. Exactly, David. And do you know something else? Which, again, look, I'm not having to go at the people involved here, right? Because we all know that when you go to a carnival or a big street event like that, you need to take a pee now and again, right? Now, on the 27th, I noticed reports from the media where, the vile people urinating in the street, right? Absolutely vile, right? Now, I didn't really see any of that. I saw it once. There's videos, multiple videos on Twitter, on X today, of people using people's downstairs entrances to their homes as a public urinal. And not a single word has been said. And I can tell you now, I've got a lot of experience of Notting Hill and Portobello Road because I spent 15 years going to that area every Saturday afternoon. And I can tell you now, every Notting Hill Carnival weekend, when I'd go up there the week before and everyone would say, don't forget, lads, we won't be here next week. It's Carnival week. Bearing in mind that the Carnival never started until the Sunday. But they wouldn't even go on the Saturday, right? So the whole weekend was a write-off. All the locals would either board their houses up. Most of them would actually go on holiday or they'd go away for the weekend. They just didn't want to be there. And all the businesses would also shut up and board up as well. Now, you could say, look, if you don't want to live in an area where there's a carnival, don't move there. And that would be fair enough, because the carnival's probably been going longer than a lot of people have actually lived in the area. But it just goes to show, again, the bias of the media when people's front doorsteps are being used as a public urinal and not a single mention of it. But when it's our lads, it's all over the newspapers. Again, two tier.
Completely that.
What we got there? Jack Wobbly, poor Larry at number 10, Staramunga as a roomie. Oh, we started it tonight. Fishing frustrations. Thank you very much. Independent puppy. Thank you very much. Carl, thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. Donna, where is Danny T? Is he okay? I haven't spoken to Danny for 2 or 3 weeks. I need to drop him a message, actually, make sure he's okay. I think he's okay. Bob Hunter, Tommy needs JD Vance for vice president now. DeWalt, XRP, have you thought that the lefties want Islam out of Europe? They would need the natives on side, so wind the natives up to boiling point. Oh, I just don't know. I don't know. The lefties, I just can't get my head around them at all. I mean,
I think he said elites, actually, Paul. He said elites.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Oh, elites. Sorry, I thought he said lefties.
People that
He just spelled it wrong.
are pulling the strings on the puppet government, you know?
Yeah. Thank you, mate. Sorry about that. I misread that. Paul Durant, 78. I really need to get up and see him, you know. What a guy, eh? I mean, what a way to
protest.
Paul, before I forget, mate, can I give a shout out for this thing with that guy Jason? It's shout
out whatever you like, mate. Yeah.
So let me just stick my glass on here if I can find it. Oh.
By the way, guys, that video that Richard was talking about earlier on, Liam Tufts, Peter Blexley, make sure you go and watch it. Brilliant.
Brilliant. Okay, so this is you know, we're talking about British culture. This lad, I'm not going to say his full name because he doesn't put his full name out there, but this lad's got involved with it's like a little parish pilgrimage, right? Now he's half Pakistani, half Spanish. He was brought up in the mosque, and he just loves British culture, and he wants to encourage British culture. So what he wants everybody to go to this walk between churches this Sunday, the 1st of September, and it's St Andrew's Church in Edburton, which is Crawley direction, and they set off at 11:15, and they just walk between these different churches, and I think they have a couple of bait and butties on the way or whatever, and it's just you know, a sort of just a very, very relaxed, you know, this is what it's like to be English, old traditional thing. Most of the people going are elderly. I'm not really selling it that well, am I? But you know, it's what he's saying is it's a way of getting in touch with old-fashioned British culture, right? And he's a nice lad, and he's really he does a lot of work with. I'm not to say what he does work with, because I don't want to give away who he is, but he's a really good lad, and he's promoting this thing. So that's Crawley, and it's St Andrew's Church, Edburton, at 11:15 on Sunday. Okay, so if you want to go for a little walk in the country on Sunday with a whole lot of nice people, that's that done.
Well done, Richard. Well done.
Wasn't a very good advert.
Rowena Kramer, thank you. Her Starling to Starmer has to pay all the unions. So tax rises, give new houses to all the invaders. On the 27th, arrests were on the violent spitting left. Most of the arrests, I believe, were from the opposition or the left or whatever you want to call them on the 27th. I think our people were amazingly well behaved. The British Patriot, favourite movie, Apocalypse Now, Unite the Kingdom. Yep, not a bad film. Where do we go from here now, Richard? Because obviously there's been a bit of a
pause.
Well, you know, people that like to point fingers and say, oh, you know, the right wanted all this nonsense. It actually did us no favours at all. It was a disaster for us.
It was a disaster. But what we've got to do, we've got to find a way of snatching victory out of the jaws of a bit of a disaster. Like I say, let's get it into perspective. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. Okay, it was bad, right? But it wasn't as bad as it could have been. And I do think that a combined effort, specifically from Tommy and some of the other more prominent people with big reaches, telling everybody to be calm, and everybody did it. You know, Lawrence did it, Calvin, Jeff, you know, all the people. Carl Benjamin. Everybody appealed for calm, right? And not just everybody online, but I know there's a lot of lads in the background that were, that were getting in touch with people in different towns saying, this is not what we signed up for here, guys.
Yeah.
You know,
Don't get involved.
don't get involved. Don't, and I know there was a lot of that going on. I'm not going to say what groups with, but you can imagine, right? So there's a lot of calming influences, calmed everything down. So from that point of view, anybody trying to blame us for any violence, they're liars. It's slander. If you've written it in print, it's libel. And I think that's another thing that maybe needs to be examined, further on down the line. If, when the dust settled, have we been slandered? And Tommy certainly has been slandered. And we know the people that have done it. And also we know that the people that shared fake news on the left side and actually shared a lot more dangerous fake news than anybody did from our, leadership team, if you like. And so I think from that point of view, when the dust settles, we'll go, hold on a minute, guys. We're just going to carry on.
Say this? Yeah. Didn't you say this?
Didn't you say this? And we didn't say this. So and we can prove that we didn't say.
Well, that person you're talking about got away scot-free with that.
Well, there's probably a reason for that. And again, we'll not go into that. But that man, I'm sure someday will be brought to account for what he's done. Hopefully, brought before the courts and prosecuted. What I'd like to see in 5 years' time is a day of reckoning for these people. So they need to be very careful what they do with us now, because if we manage to pull off what we're trying to do and we have some sort of political representation in 5 years' time that's meaningful and can change things, then I think there's a lot of people need to be asked questions about the way, not just in this parliament, but the way people have behaved for the past 20 years from Blair onwards.
Yeah.
Let's get it.
I've got a video coming out in the next week or so, and it's called The Real Far Right, and might surprise a few people. My idea of the real far right is a lot different to what you hear on Sky News, because, well, I don't want to spoil the video, but you'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of people. Who's I was listening to the other day? They're saying there should be a public inquiry.
Yeah,
and I think that's absolutely spot on. There should be a public inquiry into the whole thing.
I think so. And I mean, you're asking Paul, where do we go next? I think, we've all look. The truth is, right, we've all been rattled by this, right? My reaction was, well, stuff you. I'm going to do 2 videos a day. Just if you're going to come and get me, I might as well. I'd rather be hung for a sheep than a lamb. But the reality is, we haven't done anything wrong. None of us have broken any laws, right? We haven't incited anything. We haven't caused anything. We have done the opposite. We've tried to calm things down. So I'm not going to have these people intimidate me and bully me into being silent, right? So that's the first thing. But the second thing is, what do? We regroup. We dust ourselves off. Let's say, thankfully, nobody's been killed in all the stuff that happened. So that's a massive plus point.
Thank God, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I'm worried about those guys behind the door. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
especially some of the elderly men that have been put behind there. And I've heard some horrendous reports. Again, they're anecdotal, so I'm not going to mention them. But I've heard some bad things. But we dust ourselves down and we go, okay, this should make us redouble our efforts and actually make us do twice as much as we did before, because we've got such a lot to do. And we need to double down on building the movement. We need to be very aware that we're probably going to lose a lot of our social media platforms. So we need to have a plan B of how we communicate with people. We need to build little hubs all the way around the country of people that believe what we believe. And that's where the pledge comes in. Obviously, we've been talking about the pledge. We need to get the pledge finalized, finished, signed off and launched. And we need to get people to sign up to that. And then if people sign up to that set of ideology, which I think anybody with any right-thinking person in the UK can sign up to, we get people to sign up to that en masse, and then they build their little hubs up and down the country. And as long as they stick to the pledge, we won't have we won't have to be chasing people and wiping the backsides for them. If they really believe in what's in that pledge, because it's against racism, it's against anti-Semitism, it's against any bigotry, it's for British values, all the great stuff that that we all believe in, and we get people to sign up to that, then that puts us in a position where we've got little hubs of people that believe what we believe all over the country, and then we can start making progress. And then we need to start looking at culture and politics and religion, and work out exactly how all these things can fit together in this what's become a melting pot, and how we can actually make sure that we can live together with people of goodwill. Because at the end of the day, there are going to be headbangers on all sides that we can't interact with. Sorry, Paul,
no, it's me, mate. I was muted. Yeah. You're never gonna listen. We want to unite the kingdom. There's always going to be headbangers from every community.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
We can't deal with those, but what we can do, we can deal with the sensible people that just want to get on.
Yeah.
They've got nothing but love in their hearts and goodness, and we can, hopefully we can work with those people. Sufferfish, thank you very much. We peaceful protest fortnightly in Aldershot, no arrest. Bob Hunter, thank you, Bob. Really appreciate that. Paul, Danny, Richard, you have a lot of love out there in our beautiful country. Thank you for standing up for our wonderful country being attacked and undermined by 30 years of incompetent governments. Let's stay strong in love. What a lovely message, Bob. Thank you very much. Bob, you sent that one twice. Thank you so much, mate. Really appreciate that. Poison Witch, new member. Chris Lubby, I am a school bus driver. Keep your kids close. Keep them close. Absolutely. Always keep your kids close. Cyberknight Walker. Richard, what's your opinion on what David Icke says about all this? I've been all done by design. It says Starmer is just a gopher.
I agree. Sorry, Richard, I know that question wasn't aimed at me, but I totally agree. This is all by design. This isn't a mistake.
I've never really sat and watched it on David Icke, to be honest.
He's not in charge. Starmer's doing what he's told.
What's your opinion, Richard?
Are
you a David Icke? Are you a David Icke? What?
No,
you are?
no, I'm not a David.
I'm not
a David Icke fan. But is it by design? To a certain extent, yes. Can we do anything about it? Well, if we can't do anything about it, we've got a big problem. So I've got to believe that we can do something about it. If I'm just an optimistic fool, well, then I'll die an optimistic fool. But I think it's really important. The problem is if we go, oh, this is all by design, a lot of people will give up on the political process, won't get involved, they won't vote, they won't do anything. And then, and I believe there is a conspiracy, but I believe if we have a critical mass of people that get out there and vote, it's my American friend, when I was on live stream, he come out with a brilliant phrase, too big to rig. Right. So if the vote that you get is so massive, it's not like you're getting 33% of the vote, you're getting 40, 45, 50% of the vote. Right. Yeah. That's too big to rig. And that's why what we've got to do is such a massive task. I mean, it is. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Zay Gazon. So we meet again, Mr. Bond. Have you seen my gulags? Oh, dear. I definitely don't need to see any gulags. Boys, listen, it's been lovely having you on. It's been good to get back together as a threesome. First threesome Richard's ever had in his life.
It's not the sort I wanted, Paul.
Was it a letdown, Rich? Was it a letdown?
Thankfully.
Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Really appreciate all the chats, all the comments. Thank you so much. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up before you go. And check that you are also subscribed as well. Air First, big Irish fan here, Paul. Thank you very much, Air First. Really appreciate that. Love to everyone. Brilliant seeing you all. We'll be back live again before long, and we will see you all soon. And don't forget, be careful what you say and be careful what you post. Just think about it for 5 seconds before you actually hit that enter button. Otherwise, you could find yourself on the end of a very nasty pussy.
Scaramanga is watching you.
Good night, everyone. Love to you all.
Good night, all. Good night.
See you all.